But a climate refugee. Well, the first thing I like to mention is that people choose to leave places where they live, or they migrate for different reasons, right? There's many different reasons, many different factors. There's lots of economic factors due to economic models and economic situations. There's political factors. There's factors of violence in certain places. So I think a very useful framing is comes from Christian Parenti, the sociologist, who has a framing that he calls the catastrophic convergence, and he used that framing in his book Tropic of Chaos, which is looking at climate change. And the idea of the catastrophic convergence is that there are many crises going on right now, political, economic, and now ecological. And you look at those, often those issues are treated as separate issues, but you have to look at those issues as kind of converging together, and not as separate issues, but compounding each other. So, there might be a political, economic, and then now more and more ecological issues that, each person's situation is different. For example, one example is I met right on the Guatemalan-Mexico border, right in a town called Tenosique, 3 guys from Honduras. I was there staying at a shelter in that town for 3 days, and I'd gone to the train yard, and that was a place where people get on the Bestia, or the Beast, the infamous train that heads north. And this was the case with these guys. They were about to head north. They'd been in the train yard for like 6 days. They were trying to go to the United States. And when I asked them why they were going, what was the main reason, an 18-year-old, one of them was an 18-year-old, he looked up at me and said, well, there was no rain, so there was no harvest, no crops, no food. And yeah, so it turns out that where they're from in Honduras was was known as a dry corridor, which extends into Nicaragua, into from Guatemala into Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua. In Honduras alone, there's about 400,000 people impacted by this unprecedented drought that was happening in the year 2015, June of 2015. And then in the whole region, one headline said, well, 1 million people are on the brink of starvation, right, in this whole region due to this drought. And these are mainly subsistence farmers, people that depend on rains coming at a certain time. And so that was their main motivation. So in that context, you think, well, according to the definition, they'd be climate refugees, right? But they're also in a situation of very economic precarity, right? And in a politically volatile situation in Honduras that had a coup in 2009, and so there's all these things converging, right? So in other words, if they had other means or to be able to withstand the drought, which they did not, they might have been able to not have to leave, but that was their situation. And that drought itself is connected to the changing climate. I talked to a climate scientist about specifically Central America, Honduras. He said it's a ground zero, quote unquote, of climate change in the Americas. And this climate scientist is doing climate modeling in the area. And he said, that drought was really bad in June of 2015, but it was getting worse. You could see it coming every year, and according to the models, they're going to increase happening. So this is something, what I saw there of the 3 guys in Tenosique is something. You have to imagine there were many more people who are impacted. Whether they would say it was whether they would say it was a drought or the no rain as the first thing, I don't know. But in this case, they did. But you have to imagine there's many more of such people in such situations. And since these models are showing that it's going to increase, well, then you're going to have to imagine there's going to be more in the future.